It was a gray, drizzly afternoon when the CEO stepped out of his sleek black car, the cold city wind whipping against his coat. His name was Alexander Shaw, known in the corporate world as a powerhouse, a man who built his tech empire from scratch and climbed every rung of success with grit and brilliance. Yet, in all his success, he bore the invisible weight of loneliness. His mansion echoed with silence. His days were filled with meetings, deals, and decisions, but no laughter, no warmth, and no one to share his quiet victories or hidden pain. Not since he lost his family in a tragic accident 5 years ago. Since then, his world had been functional, but emotionally barren. That particular afternoon, Alexander had been visiting one of his company's new tech community centers in an underprivileged neighborhood. It was a token project, honestly, part charity, part public image. But as he walked through the cheerful chaos of children trying out tablets and learning modules, he didn't expect to be ambushed by a small voice that would crack open his world. "You don't have a family too?" The question came from a little girl with messy curls and wide, curious eyes. She was sitting alone at a corner table, her hands resting on a paper plate of untouched cupcakes. Alexander paused. He had walked past dozens of children without anyone noticing or caring who he was. Yet this little girl looked straight into his eyes, not as a billionaire, not as a CEO, but as a man. He crouched beside her and gave a polite smile. "What makes you think I don't have a family? You just look like me," she said softly. "Everyone else came with someone. My mom's not here. She works a lot, so I sit alone. You sit alone too." Something in Alexander's chest tightened. It was rare for anyone to see past his image, but this child, she saw him. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lila." "Well, Lila, I'm Alex. It's nice to meet you." Lila looked up at him thoughtfully, then suddenly beamed. "You can come to my birthday. It's this Saturday. I'm turning 7. It's at our building's rooftop. There's not a lot, but we'll have cake and maybe balloons if Mom gets home early." He chuckled softly, unsure of what to say. A child's birthday. It felt impossibly far from his usual world of boardrooms and fine dining. "Do you invite strangers to all your parties?" he asked with a hint of teasing. Lila shrugged. "Only the lonely ones." And with that, she went back to coloring her picture. Alexander returned to his office that day unable to shake the encounter from his mind. Her words echoed in his heart with an unsettling power. He told himself it was just a kind gesture from a child, that he was far too busy to attend a birthday party with people he didn't know. But when Saturday came, something told him not to ignore the invitation. He bought a modest gift, a book about adventures and space travel, and showed up at the building she had described. It was old, the paint peeling off the walls, the elevator groaning as it lifted him to the rooftop. And yet, the moment he stepped out, he was hit by the warmth of life he hadn't felt in years. There was music from a cheap speaker, a plastic table with a homemade cake, balloons tied to the railing, a handful of kids laughing and playing, and a young woman, tired but radiant, smiling as she poured juice into paper cups. Then he saw Lila. Her face lit up the second she spotted him. "You came." He smiled, awkward but genuine. "Of course I did. I said I would, didn't I?" Lila ran to him and hugged his leg tightly before pulling him toward the others. She introduced him as, "My friend Alex," and the simplicity of that title humbled him more than any honorific ever had. Lila's mother, Maria, looked surprised but grateful. "Thank you for coming," she said with a soft smile. "Lila doesn't usually get a lot of guests. She's had a rough year." Alexander nodded, unsure how much to say. "She's a remarkable girl." The party was small, unpolished, and perfect. The cake was slightly lopsided, the games made up on the spot. Yet in that messy, joyous atmosphere, Alexander felt something stir in his heart. He laughed, he danced awkwardly, he helped serve cake and even got icing on his suit. For the first time in years, he felt human. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink, Lila took his hand and walked him to the edge of the rooftop. "Did you like my party?" He looked at her, his heart full. "I loved it." "Good," she said, "because you can come every year. You're part of the family now." The words hit him like a wave. Part of the family. It was something he hadn't heard in so long, something he thought he would never be again. He blinked back the sting in his eyes and knelt down to her level. "Thank you, Lila. That means more to me than you know." That evening, as he helped clean up and talked more with Maria, who turned out to be just as intelligent and warm-hearted as her daughter, Alexander realized something monumental. Life had given him unimaginable success, but it was in the innocent kindness of a child that he found something far more valuable than wealth, belonging. Over the following weeks, Alexander stayed in touch. He visited again, not just Lila, but Maria too. He learned about their struggles, how Maria worked 2 jobs to provide for Lila, how hard she tried to give her daughter a good life. He offered support, quietly, respectfully, not out of pity but out of genuine care. And slowly, a bond grew. Dinners became regular. He read bedtime stories. He helped with homework. They watched movies together and went on weekend trips to the park. What started as a simple birthday visit turned into something transformative for all of them. People in Alexander's life began to notice the change. His board members saw a softer side. His staff felt more connected to him. He wasn't just the CEO anymore, he was a man who had found meaning again. Months later, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, Lila was drawing in her sketchbook while Maria and Alexander sat on the couch. She looked up suddenly and said, "I think we're a real family now." Maria smiled, then glanced at Alexander. He reached over and gently took her hand. "Yes, we are," he said softly. That moment, simple, honest, and full of love, was worth more to Alexander than any fortune he'd ever earned. He had walked into a child's birthday party alone, and left with a family. And that was the real story. Not of a CEO, not of a billionaire, but of a man who, despite the odds, found healing in the most unexpected place, from the open heart of a little girl who simply wanted someone to sit beside her. Let this story remind us, sometimes the smallest voices carry the greatest wisdom. Sometimes healing comes not from therapy or riches, but from presence, from kindness, and from saying yes to life's quiet invitations. Because the truth is, we all have the power to change someone's world, with a smile, a question, or an invitation to be part of something we all need: love, connection, and a place to belong.